Hey guys, David Bonvie here. Sorry I was unable to join you live in class for my presentation today, but I did still want to report my findings for you. I thought they were interesting. It's on Major League Baseball and the competitive imbalance which exists today. Now, baseball is a sport I feel very passionate about, so the fact that there's an imbalance the way there is today, it's something that I feel is a crime above all others. Now, baseball, just like any sport, is going to have troubled times, and through 100+ years of baseball, there's been issues. The 1919 Black Sox scandal. There's been the cocaine era, which ran rampant right through the 80s. There was 8 work stoppages, or has been through the years, including the '94 World Series, which was never played, and most recently, the Mitchell Report. But to me, it all falls short in comparison to what's going on in the game today because of the shoulders that this falls on. It falls on the commissioner of baseball, the players' union, and the owners. It's a three-headed monster there, and they just can't get on the same page. They have their own personal agendas. Neither one is willing to give up ground, and because of that, the gap continues to widen. Now, to their credit, they did try to take some corrective action. There have been some measures put into place, 5 of them, which we're going to discuss in great length in this presentation, but they failed miserably. It's equivalent to your dad buying you a shiny new Porsche on your 18th birthday. You run outside real excited, great, great, then you pop the hood and you see there's no engine in there. Yeah, it might look nice, but it's not going anywhere. What they did, yeah, it looks great, but they're just not getting it done. So we're going to start with number 1, which is the local revenue sharing plan in Major League Baseball, and why it stinks. Major League Baseball's local revenue sharing plan, though well-intentioned, falls short of the mark. Right now, 31% of local revenues from large market teams get shipped to those low market teams. And those revenues include gate sales, concessions, parking, luxury suites, merchandising, and local broadcasting. So when you consider 69% still stays in the pocket of those large market teams, they're still reaping some very large windfalls of cash. Last year, the New York Yankees pulled in $327 million. Our beloved Red Sox, $265 million. And the New York Mets, $235 million. So even with Major League Baseball's local revenue sharing plan, large market teams are still collecting a couple $100 million. And that's at least going to be the way it's going to stay until 2011 when the collective bargaining agreement expires. One thing I thought that was interesting was that the 02 through 06 CBA was actually at 34%. So these large market teams are sharing less today as time marches on. But that's really only half the problem. These small market teams, once they reap those benefits of the revenue sharing plan, they need to spend them. They need to reinvest them in the team, and they're not doing that. And there's really no incentive to do that. According to Forbes, from 2002 to 2006, the Kansas City Royals, their revenue share doubled to $32 million, but player costs increased only 6%. The Florida Marlins in 06 and 07, they reaped $60 million from the revenue sharing plan back-to-back years, but yet their starting lineup only was at $45.5 million both years. So something has to give, and what's going on here is that these owners are taking the funds and putting them in their pocket. Now, they're supposed to reinvest them in the team, but there's a lot of ways to hide that, through marketing, player personnel, player salaries. So when you get right down to it, the safeguard that's in place for that, it's not a lockdown system. So there's a lot of room here for these owners to get away with a lot, and they're doing that. And there's really no incentive to pump it back into the team for 2 reasons. One, if they put it into players and their salaries, obviously that's less money in their own pocket, but then the team, theoretically, would have more wins, and they'd have more people coming to the stands and going to the games and reaping more revenue, so getting less revenue share money. So if they don't do anything, just do the bare minimum, they collect more revenue share money, and they don't have to reinvest in the team, so they're pocketing money there. What incentive is there? So perhaps a salary cap is needed. That's something we're going to discuss in just a moment, but first, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about cable company revenue. Cable company revenues are huge for these big market teams. They can make a lot of money, and they do. Let's take the Steinbrenners and the New York Yankees. The Yes Network they own 37% of, and they reap about $300 million a year just from the Yes Network. That's obviously a lot of money, and you can sign a lot of players for that. The best part for them is that they don't have to share a dime of that with anyone. How they do that is they sell the broadcast rights for a minimal amount of money. That part does go into the revenue sharing pool. But then they have all the ad sales, and they also have the subscription fees. And of course, nowadays, in a recession, down economy, subscription fees are still there. That's really recession-proof. Going to the game might be more challenging and difficult, but people are still watching television. So it's a great source for them to kind of hedge their bets, so to speak, and make a lot of money. So cable companies are a win-win for owners. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the salary cap and how that could potentially help or hurt Major League Baseball, and see who's on which side of the fence. It was former ball player Andy Van Slyke who once said, "There'd be peace in the Middle East long before there'd ever be a salary cap in baseball." And I tend to agree with him. In fact, it was the salary cap which was at the root of the problem back in '94, which caused the strike and the eventual cancellation of the World Series. That year, the Players Union made a concession, a small concession, in that they adopted the luxury tax, and we'll talk more about that in a moment, and that was a form of cap. See, the owners were saying, we need a salary cap for the competitive balance of the league and for the health of the league. But the union, they didn't really buy that. They said you want the salary cap so that you can pocket more money. Of course, if you cap that, then you're keeping player salaries down, and you're getting fatter paychecks for the owners, getting more money in their pockets. And that's the last thing the union wants. They love a free market, and they want to protect those big market teams like the Yankees, like the Red Sox, like the Dodgers, who continue to push the envelope and drive larger salaries. That's just the way it is. Now, as far as a floor goes, there might potentially be a salary floor at some point. I don't see that coming anytime real soon either. Although some of the large market owners are concerned about the way that small market owners are using their revenue sharing money, so there might be something enforced there. But you can't really have a salary floor in baseball because teams for a number of years might look to retool the system. They might want to re-energize the farm system, sell off players, trade them away. So it's very difficult to get a floor there. But let's talk a little bit more about the luxury tax, which we just mentioned.